Hi, welcome to my channel, Reader Woman. My name's Judy, and let's talk book tags. In particular, the BookTube Snob book tag. I thought it was kind of a fun one, and thought I'd give it a try. Number 1, Adaptation Snob. Do you always read the book before you see the movie? No. It's sometimes fun to have, but you know, my most famous reading after the movie came out is Lord of the Rings. Before I saw Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, I just wasn't interested. I can't tell you how many times as a young teenager I tried to read The Hobbit and was bored out of my gourd. It just wasn't my kind of book. And then once I got a hold of the movie, I just read it all. So yeah, I think that movies can be great introductions to books, and obviously the other way around. They're two different types of entertainment. I don't expect a movie to have all the details. It can't. It bothers me when it isn't faithful to the spirit of the book. But then sometimes they're able to create magic, mystery, whatever you want to call it, out of the written word in a way that the book doesn't. So there's a visual aspect. So yeah, I have no problem reading the book after the movie. Number 2, format snob. If you had to choose only one format for the rest of your life, print, electronic, or audio, which would it be? Well, for me right now, it would be electronic. I like my Kindle. I like reading books electronically. It's easy. I can just download it. It's done. Excuse me. So yeah, I kind of think electronic, which does not mean that if I only had to read my books, I would still go ahead and keep my books. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, audio, I have never listened to an audiobook. I don't know if I have the patience or the time to do so. I will try one day, I promise, but it is not my first or second choice. Number 3, ship snob. Would you date or marry a non-reader? And of course, I mean, my family have been, my mom read when I was young. She read mysteries and enjoyed that. She did a little bit of literature, but not that much. My dad, he had his reading experience early and loved his Louis L'Amour westerns, but you know, person should only read so many books, and he'd read his quota by the time he was 25, so that's not quite true. It was always the thing with my dad, you know. Well, I did that in my youth, so that's good enough. So yeah, I don't necessarily look for a reader, but I have to say, I was dating a few years ago. It was like, all of a sudden I had this vision of the perfect man. You know, he would be sitting beside the fire, knitting, while having me read to him a book that he had written and that he had built the cabin in which we were living. So yeah, I mean, handy guys, it's all a matter of who you're attracted to. Number 4, genre snob. You have to ditch one genre and never read it again. Which would it be? That would be easy. Horror. I just hate horror. I don't like the feeling of being scared. And I don't understand really why people go out of their way to have that. I mean, and also there's just certain types of mysteries. I have had it up to here with women being kidnapped, murdered, you know, all of this genre stuff. It's like, I don't mind a realistic murder mystery, but you know, I get tired of it always being focused on women being slaughtered in some way or another. So, and yes, I watched, I didn't read, I watched Silence of the Lambs. All right, number 5, Uber Genre Snob. You only read one genre for the rest of your life. Which would it be? Of course it would be fiction. Of course it would be. You can get your history, you can get your biography in good literature, you know. People look things up when they write. But yeah, definitely fiction. It's been my passion my whole life. So yeah, why would I change now? All right, number 6, Community Snob. Which genre do you think receives the most snobbery from the bookish community? Well, as I've watched several of these tags, I would have to agree romance is looked down upon. Rightfully so. I think in the sense that if it's all you read, if all you're reading is romance, then, you know, perhaps you need to look a little bit further, you know, farther afield as to what's out there in the literary world. I mean, I myself, you know, at the beginning of the year, all of a sudden I found myself devouring 12 Regency romances. But then, I just thought of this, but then I deleted them from my Goodreads. I mean, because I bought them on my Kindle and it automatically shows up on your Goodreads. And all of a sudden it showed that I'd read 12 of these things and I was a little embarrassed by it. So I deleted them. And then I was kind of ticked off because I lost the 12 books on my reading list. So instead of the however many I have, it should be plus 12. But yeah, I think it is. But of course, it's a far cry from just those little slim harlequins that used to exist in the 70s and 80s and 90s that were, you know, not always that good. In fact, most of them weren't. There were a few, and I would, you know, definitely pay attention to who was writing. And, you know, I've read my share of romance, but once again, sometimes when you go into somebody's house and all they have are those little, you know, Regency romances, Harlequin romances, you know, in bookshelf after bookshelf, you know, you have to wonder a little bit. But today, the genre is much, much better, I feel, than it used to be. And so I don't know that I would necessarily feel that it had that same, I don't know, little, I don't know, snobbery about people who watch it, or shame if you did read them, you know, and go, oh, you know, I don't want anybody to know, but, you know, I'm still kind of that way. Okay, number 7, and this one's a tough one for me. Snobbery Recipient. Have you ever been snubbed for something you've been reading, or for reading in general? The only thing I can think of doesn't quite go with this because it has nothing to do with snobbery, but I was probably about 12, 11, 12, and my family were going camping with my aunt's family and her family. So we had 2 trailers, they had 3 kids, we had 2 kids, dads went to work, and the moms were there with all of us kids for a week, you know, from weekend to weekend. And it was great. You know, we got to do things. I've never been, you know, artistic, and I remember my cousin Sherry, she showed me how to paint, you know, these beautiful conifer trees. We went out and we caught, you know, lizards in the fields. Well, not the fields, but in the rocky areas in the mountains. And it was a great trip. But I remember one time I was inside the trailer reading, and my cousin Sherry came in. And so we started reading my book together. And then I heard later from my mom, who heard it from her mom, that Sherry felt that I shouldn't be reading that book. That it was too advanced because there were words like damn and hell in there. And that was just, she thought I was far too young for that. So, and I'm sure I wasn't reading anything very highbrow. It was just light entertainment for a kid in the summer, you know, in a trailer. But yeah, that was the only time anybody ever really gave me a hard time that I can think of. You know, I was always told that I had my nose in a book too much, but in hindsight, I think I did. So anyways, this was a great tag. I hope more people do it. In fact, I tag you if you're watching. And I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on book snobbery. So we'll talk more, and have a great evening. Bye.